I understand this is supposed to be a comedy, which, of course, I understand the outrageous nature of it all and trying to laugh at some of the painful things about this period, but let's face it, with some of the things that happen in this movie, you can really apply this to even to today. We're still feeling it. We're still seeing those effects. Regardless on how long it's been, the effects will always still be there, and I think we just realize this is the new norm of things.
We need to free each other's hearts.
Eddington is directed and written by Aster. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deirdre O'Connell, Michael Ward, Austin Butler, and Emma Stone. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, in May of 2020, a standoff between a small-town sheriff and mayor sparks a power keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. 2025 has been so far a whirlwind and a messy year in terms of how the world, or if you want to just boil it down to what this movie has shown us, this country has been. Okay, let's not deny it. As much as we can have our entertainment and things to distract us and have us enjoying some things, it unfortunately cannot be said that in the reality of it all, in the world of our governments, or like I said, in the US government these days, it's gotten worse and it continues to be worse for so many people. It's just something that we just have to constantly combat against in the face of adversity. Ari Aster of Hereditary and Midsommar fame, regardless on what you feel about those films, you cannot deny they have had some sort of impact with regards to how people view horror films and how they are disturbing and shocking to some people, decided to make a new Western satirical black comedy. Well, okay. Hey, at least we can have something to make us laugh at. Something alright. So what is it? Well, it's set in 2020. Ah, shit. Come on, man. I mean, I get it. You want to make a statement, but goddamn, this is too soon. But rest assured, you guys, I'm always fine with movies that want to have a message for today and something that can have us look at ourselves and be like, you see how fucked up we are? Like, seriously, do you realize how screwed up we are and how we are going to be for the rest of the coming decades because of this incident? And I don't want to recite anything, you guys. We all know 2020. If you lived through it, you know how much that year not only saw a lot of adversity in the form of the COVID pandemic, as well as the death of George Floyd, sparking the Black Lives Matter movement. It really just showed us how terrible the world can be when things are against us, and how even something like a global pandemic can really have a huge lasting effect on us. We still even feel it to this day. I don't really think we have ever fully recovered, no matter what people tell you. Aster wanted us to reflect and remember this period that showcases the hypocrisy, chaos, and confusion while adding a bit of humor to all of it. And let me tell you, folks, if you lived through 2020, you know that there was so much bullshit and stupidity that was constantly being thrown at us, a lot of confusion and questioning ourselves. It was a period where we saw a lot of people by themselves pondering things and constantly berating them everywhere in a way where it made it so frustrating and so annoying that it was very much a loud bang. This movie, just by its premise, would be very controversial and polarizing for people. I already knew the moment I heard what this movie was going to be about and how it was going to be a satirical comedy. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, you know that this is going to really divide people on how they view this movie. But for myself, just me and just me alone, I actually really enjoyed what this film had to offer and was saying. If there is one thing I can give away with this movie, is it's risky. It is a film that I feel like Ari Aster is willing to risk to have something to say with regards to the state of the world, not only at the time, but how it would be moving forward. Though I had my few issues with it, it's not a perfect film. I have my gripes with it. I respect what Ari Aster had to say. I really do. If there is one thing I can give credit to him, he is willing to say what he wants to feel, take it or leave it. I know it will make people either really disgusted or bothered by what this movie tries to say. From my perspective, I respect what the man wanted to do. But before addressing my problems, here are the positives. The performances are magnetic. Everyone, but particularly Phoenix and Pascal, are excellent in the film, really encompassing how people can be sometimes. Joaquin Phoenix. This man, he plays Joe Cross, who is the sheriff of Eddington. Of course, somebody who is a cop, but then again, as we all seen with a lot of cops, even during the pandemic, you know that it can bring out the absolute stupidity and dumbness. And I'll tell you, Joaquin Phoenix, he is so amazing in this movie because he's just so stupid. Like, he's just one of those cops who you can tell would fall for so much of the really like extreme but rather ridiculous theories or even ideologies, and just thinks that he's speaking so highly profitable of himself, or the idea of, we just all want to be free and not have to feel like we're being forced to do these things, which, as we all know, living through the pandemic, you know that doing what this man does is completely stupid and ridiculous, but it is because of Phoenix, who plays it off in a way where you truly buy that this would be a person in real life, even a cop, on how they would act. Pedro Pascal, he's also terrific. He's not as big in the film as maybe some of the marketing, or at the very least how the film wants to present itself, but I do think he does play a good role as the mayor who is trying to run for re-election, and who, of course, is supposed to be seen as like, a Democrat, and how you even see the faults on him. If there's one thing I respect this movie for doing, is that it does try to see both sides of it, and also try to show possible rights, but really the faults of both sides in this fight for mayor. And I think both Phoenix and Pascal, they play off each other so well. They're almost like little kids. But I think that's what works about this movie, is that you see how adults can act so childish and so stupid and so reckless with some of the decisions and choices that they make, or how selfish they can be with trying to pursue what they want, but also sacrificing what other people also want. Either way, their performances, they're magnetic, they are amazing. They are easily the best part about this movie, and one that I found myself really intrigued by. The direction is exciting. Director Ari Aster blends the Western genre with a comedy element to it, feeling like this actually could happen. Ari Aster, even though he has a background in horror, and even though I have not seen his work, even something like Beau is Afraid, I still haven't seen. I might check it out, but his horror stuff I have no interest in. It's not because of him, it's just, again, I'm not really interested in anything that is like super duper horror-esque. I do like how he wanted to blend the Western genre and comedy together, but for, today, and how it can showcase New Mexico and what he grew up in and how he saw things, as well as just taking the satirical route of exploring the pandemic and the problems and issues, and how we could have handled things, or how we see things in hindsight, and how we take it. Regardless, the man truly has a voice, he has a passion, and what he wants to say in this film. And I think it was really cool for him to really combine those two to make a film that he truly was wanting to showcase to people. The cinematography is beautiful. Cinematographer Darius Kanji shoots a sprawling but small film that shows the local town of Eddington, New Mexico. Also, showing the desert makes it feel really big. Of course, A24, their movies look stellar, they look amazing, and of course, Darius Kanji is no exception. The man really does showcase the small scale nature of this small town, how people can come across each other, how they can really feel like this is a community. It is a community that knows each other, are willing to just go along with everyone as much as it is in the middle of a pandemic, and also really showcasing how big New Mexico can be. It's almost like, in a way of, it can sometimes feel like Breaking Bad, because of course that was shot in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and this movie does that. It does showcase New Mexico as being super big and sprawling, and having one area be under this jurisdiction and the other being under this jurisdiction. Regardless, the movie looks incredible. The music is eerie. Composers Daniel Pemberton and Bobby Kurlick crafts a score that makes the tone and vibe feel scary and intense, making this feel disturbing. The scoring in this movie does give off the vibes of almost being like horror, because a lot of the times movies like this will either have minimal score or try to be as super intense. But with this, a lot of the scoring feels so simple, but it works to that effect, because it doesn't have to really play into the scary nature of what this movie is trying to address. it just adds to it. And when the like simple scoring of it does come into play, it is effective of trying to elevate the feelings that we are having in the scenes themselves, and how it makes us dread and kind of sometimes cringe or laugh at some of the ridiculous notions of the movie. And I think they did a really good job of fitting what the film wants to be. The writing is effective. Ari Aster writes a script that is sometimes frightening and insightful. Though I didn't laugh at everything that happens in this movie, because I understand it's a comedy. Some of the humor does work. There are some moments in this movie where the humor does make you sit there and just makes you laugh at how ridiculous a lot of these actions or how people are and how extreme these people can sometimes be. But I do think that the writing can also be scary too, because of how much the film does really delve deep into how human beings, but also how the political spectrum on both sides can really exaggerate or just make things so big and so exhausting to handle that it just becomes really tiresome. But I think that's the whole point of the film. It's making you really see the faults so much in both scenarios from both perspectives of these political spectrum, that this is just stupid and this is dumb to see these people act this way, especially for a pandemic that we all should think that we should be at least civil to one another. But of course, this movie showcases we weren't. We were all selfish and we were all dumb for it. And facing a pandemic that we have never seen in our lifetimes, it has brought the real stupidity in all of us. The social commentary is challenging. Seeing Aster tackle the pandemic, political tensions, and narcissism of people was very risky and brave. With this film, it will be polarizing. There will be a lot of things in this movie that will divide a lot of people on not just, like I said, about the political spectrum, but rather the pandemic, how it showcases one's perspective. Because, of course, you're following mostly Joe, and Joe, of course, he's somebody who's like told multiple times in the movie, you gotta wear a mask. And he goes along with it for like a few seconds, and then he just pulls that shit down and tries to wave it off as being this is stupid and ridiculous. It will ruffle feathers for a lot of people, and some people might find it annoying that we are following somebody that you just already are like, I cannot agree with this person a lot of the times. And I do think that it does a good job of showcasing, like I said, the narcissism in people. How people are willing to just kind of go along and follow along on things and just be so smug about it. Or some people try to follow something that is a historical event just to get attention. And this movie does showcase that in the form of one character, in the form of a teenager, and where that goes there is something that does legit happen. We've seen it happen, literally. I do think that this movie will get a lot of people talking, but again, it will be a very intense conversation just because of how much this movie does tackle things that will bring out some harsh feelings for a lot of people. The production is great. With this being A24, they're able to use locations, costumes that fit the film, and crew work that shows the efforts. For a budget of $25 million, it looks incredible. If there is one thing I always respect for A24, just kind of similar to maybe like Blumhouse, is that they are able to work in like a cheap area, but not to the point of like they're dirt cheap. They are still able to pull off still incredible, amazing looking movies, and showcasing that talent and hard work on full display in this film. That is something that I always respect A24 for doing, and that is pulling off a movie that relatively is a smaller film, but can make it look 10 times look incredible than pouring so much money into it. While I praise the efforts, there are a few problems that I have with it that did kind of stop me or make me think that I don't think this needed to be there. So here are now the negatives. The story is all over the place. While the standoff between the sheriff and mayor was entertaining and interesting to watch, but as it goes on, it does feel overstuffed, really just being too much. I think that as much as the storyline between Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal and this re-election and the conversations that they have with one another, but with their peers. I do think that with this movie trying to tackle not just really the pandemic and the political spectrum, you also have to take into effect that it has also characters that are trying to weave that into the main story, and it still can fit, but I do think that it gets too bloated to the point of it feels like it's so overstuffing itself with a lot of its ideas. Again, I applaud Ari Aster for really trying to do his best on tackling it, but I do feel like it becomes so overstuffed that it's so loose and you start to kind of feel like maybe there could have been some things that they could have cut out from this film, and I just don't feel like it was airtight as it could have been. The pacing runtime is a slog. Every scene does go on a bit too long. With a runtime of 2 hours and 28 minutes, it felt long than it needed to be. I honestly think that this could have gotten away with maybe like a 2 hour or 2 hour and 10 minute movie. I don't think this needed to be 2.5 hours, because by the time it gets to the end, you're just are feeling kind of worn out. You're exhausted by what you witness. And although the ending is crazy, I will not deny it. There's always something about A24. They always just do some really crazy things. Not weird this time, I will say this. It wasn't weird, it was just crazy. But I do think that the runtime for this film, I really think was just stretched out too long, that it could have easily been shortened down to something a little bit digestible. The cult subplot feels tacked on. This cult, which is led by Austin Butler, and then it involves Emma Stone, who, again, both of them are really good in the movie, but I will say they're not given as much as something like Pedro Pascal or especially Joaquin Phoenix. Those guys have more to chew in this movie, whereas to them, they're kind of off to the side. They're still good, but I just don't think they hit as hard as those two. Doesn't really add much to the plot if you really think about it. There is something that is attached, I guess, to the plot involving Joe's wife and how it could still affect Ted's chances of being reelected. It just could have been, I think, a little bit different explaining Emma Stone's character and her feelings, because, of course, that plot line is supposed to be talking about her abuse and how what she went through. And if you watch the movie, you know. But I do think that this plot line just doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than just to add something in there. And while it was enjoyable, I just think that it went on for far too long, and it just ultimately doesn't really lead much to anywhere. And even by the end, you're like, all right, well, what was the point of this? I don't really see it. All in all, the film was willing to take a risk with its commentary, which I respect. I really do. If there's one thing I can say about Ari Aster is he was willing to take a big swing at it, and whether some people like it or not, I gotta respect the grind for that. I was interested with what it had to say. Aside from its faults, a job well done. I found myself really entertained by this film and at parts laughing, but I was mostly, I think, pretty disturbed, because I lived through what the pandemic was, how people were acting, how things were just getting so out of control, and I do, again, really believe to this day we have still never fully recovered from that pandemic, and I think this movie really encapsulates what our new future is. And that's already a sad way of looking at it, but I mean, if you remember that period, you guys, I mean, is it any different than it is now? I mean, seriously, I mean, minus the pandemic, pretty much really shows where we would be at this point. I'm going to give Eddington a 7 out of 10. This was a really enjoyable movie. It may not hit well with a lot of people. Like I said, it is going to be a very controversial film. I think even more controversial than A24's last movie that was similar to this, and that is Civil War. But I would say that this movie would be more so controversial in the sense of how it addresses these issues and how they go about telling it. And you either for it or you're going to be against it. I can't tell you how you feel. I'm just saying that that is how this movie will be seen as. I will soon be doing a review for Happy Gilmore, leading to Happy Gilmore 2. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other reviews coming soon.